Okay, so 8, 1, 0, and negative exponent notes. We did the warm-up already, correct? Okay, so inside your salmon-colored foldable, open up that first flap, please. So if I have 2 to the 7th power, remember this 2 is your base. The 7 is your exponent. The large number is your base. The small number is your exponent. So what does 2 to the 7th power actually mean? What? Right, it means 2 times itself 7 times. So it's repeat multiplication when we have exponents. Repeated multiplication. So if we have 3 to the 4th power, we don't necessarily need to reach for our calculator to do 3 to the 4th power. Think about 3 to the 4th power as 3 times itself 4 times. And break it down into smaller parts. What's 3 times 3?
9.
And the other 3 times 3?
9.
So 9 times 9 is?
81.
81. Write that in your notes, please. Put the calculators on the floor. Some of you are already relying on the calculator too much. A half times a half. How do you multiply fractions? Straight across. So 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. So 1/4. Another way you can think about this question is 1 being squared and the denominator of 2 being squared. Is it 1 squared 1 and 2 squared 4? So when you have a fraction, you're also squaring the numerator and you're squaring the denominator as well. Example 3, negative 8 to the 3rd power. You need to make sure you are writing that base of negative 8 in parentheses 3 times, or thinking about it as negative 8 in parentheses 3 times. What is a negative 8 times a negative 8? Positive 64. Now that positive 64 is getting taken times a negative 8. What's that going to be? 64 times 8. What's the 8 times the 4? So put my 2, carry a 3. 6 times 8 is?
48.
Plus 3?
51.
So is our answer going to be a positive 512 or a negative 512?
Negative.
Negative, because it was a positive times a negative, so a negative 512 for a solution. Let's go to our regular notes. Oh, nope, negative exponents. Sorry, next flap. Next flap. If I have b to the negative n power, that negative exponent means that we have to make this a fraction. So remember I said before, this is like living upstairs. It's not happy having a bedroom upstairs. It wants to move to the basement. As soon as it gets to move to the basement, it now becomes a happy exponent. So it traded places with the 1, so to speak. So if I'm going to do this with 4 to the negative 3 power, instead of making a negative, so if I have this negative exponent, in order to make it a positive exponent, I have to put it in the basement and make it 1 over 4 to the 3rd power. And then I simply solve 4 to the third power to make it 1 over 64. Okay, so in your notes, you have 2 to the negative 3 power. How are we getting rid of that negative exponent? Moving it to the basement. So it becomes 1 over 2 to the third. Now, what is 2 to the third power? 2 times 2 is
4
times 2?
8
So my answer becomes 1/8. In the next one, see how the base of negative 6 is already in parentheses? When we move it to the basement, we have to also make sure that that negative 6 stays inside those parentheses. And instead of a negative 4, it becomes a positive 4 when we moved it to the basement. Now, is this going to be a positive or a negative base? Why positive? It's an even exponent. It's a negative 6 times a negative 6, right? Which will be a positive 36. And then a negative 6 times a negative 6, which will make another positive 36. So I'd have 2 positives. So if this is a negative base and it's even, you're going to have a positive answer. What if that were an odd exponent? Then what kind of an answer would it be? Then it would be negative. Okay, so you may take out your calculator and multiply 6 to the 4th power. Multiply 6 to the 4th power. Everybody remember where the exponent button is on these?
1,296.
1,296? Everybody agree? Okay, next. This should be on your white paper, or are we on the last page? No, last flap of our foldable. Last flap of your foldable. Simplifying. So in the order of operations, we do PEMDAS, right? P is parentheses, E is exponents, M and D is multiply, divide, A and S is add, subtract. So we don't have parentheses in this first one, so we have to take care of the exponents. If I have a negative exponent, I have to take care of that negative exponent. So 3 to the negative power, 2 power, how am I going to get rid of, Tony, calculator down. How am I going to get rid of that exponent, this negative exponent? Put it to the basement. So I'm going to make it 1 over 3 squared times 2 to the second times 4 to the 0. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I have positive exponents across the board. I'll wait for some of you to write that. Now, let's solve those exponents. In this first one, what is 3 squared? 9. Bring down my multiplication. What's 2 squared? 4. Bring down my multiplication. What's 4 to the 0 power? 1. 4 to the 0 power is 1, and I'll explain in just a moment why anything to the 0 power is 1. So again, I'll wait for you to write that. Now, how are we going to multiply? Straight across. How am I going to make 4 a fraction? Put it over 1. 1 over 1. Multiply straight across. 1 times 4 times 1. 9 times 1 times 1. My answer is 4 9ths. Next one. We need to make sure we have positive exponents to begin with. So I don't need to do anything with 6 squared yet. Nothing with 3 squared yet. 1 to the negative 1 power. How are we going to make that a positive exponent?
Move to the basement.
Move it to the basement. So 1 over 1 to the first power. So once we have positive exponents, now we can solve. Does everybody have that one written so far? Corbin, you got this one written down, please?
Luca.
Luca, sorry. I don't know why I said Corbin, because I saw him on Friday. He's in the forefront of my brain. What is 6 squared?
36.
Minus, what's 3 squared? 9. Plus, what's 1 to the first power?
1.
So what's 1 over 1? 1. Solve, left to right, 36 minus 9. 27. And 27 plus 1?
28.
And we're done. Notice, right here, did you call that a negative 3 squared, or did you call it minus 3 squared? So this negative doesn't get affected if there's no parentheses then, right? Because it's a subtraction sign. We just called it 3 squared and brought it down as a subtraction sign. That's the difference between minus 3 squared and a negative 3 squared. Okay? That's what this is right here. Understand the difference between the two? All right, now to your white paper. So evaluate, list answers as fractions, not decimals. So if I have 2 to the 4th power, 2 to the 4th power, help me out. 2 times 2,
4.
would the other 2 times 2 be a 4? So 4 times 4 would be 16. 2 to the 3rd power is 8. 2 squared, 4. 2 to the 1st, 2. You're multiplying 1, 2 times itself when you have 2 to the 1st power. There's just 1, 2. 2 to the 0 power
1.
is 1. What is the pattern that is taking place here? Divide by 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Right? Or I could multiply by 2 going up. So 1 times 2 is 2, times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. We have to continue that pattern, don't we? Going into our negative exponents. Because my exponents are going down by 1, I now get to 2 to the negative 1 power. So what would 1 divided by 2 be? Well, 1 divided by 2 is really the same thing as a half. Two to the negative 2 power would be what? 1/4. Because I make a negative 2, put it in the basement, would be 1 over 2 to the 2nd, or 1/4. So what's 2 to the negative 3 power going to be? And 2 to the negative 4? 1/16. What do you notice in our pattern? Keep dividing by 2. What else do you notice? Yeah, expand on that. They're the same numbers, but one's a fraction. What kind of a fraction are they?
A negative, a positive.
16 and 1/16. What are those?
Reciprocal.
Yeah, they're reciprocals of each other. So if I've got 2 to the 4th power is a positive 16, 2 to the negative 4 power is the reciprocal of that, and it's going to be 1/16 then. So it should be true every single time. When you take anything to a 0 power, it's always going to be 1. The only time it's not going to be is if I would have negative 2 to the 0 power. The 2 to the 0 power would be the 1, but is the negative getting affected there? It would not. Then it would be a negative 1 for an answer. Okay, with your partner, do the next one. You may use your calculator for the first two, 5 to the 4th and 5 to the 3rd. Write them as fractions.
Yeah.
This Yeah, Mom. Because how much 125 times 625?
So what's 5 to the 4th power?
625.
625. 5 to the 3rd power. 5 to the 2nd. 5 to the 1st. 5 to the 0. 5 to the negative 1. 1/5. 5 to the negative 2. 1/25. 5 to the negative 3. And 5 to the negative 4. 1/625. Okay, next. 3 to the negative 2 power. Calculators turned over or off. 3 to the negative 2 power. How are we getting rid of that negative exponent?
Put it in the basement.
Put it in the basement. So it becomes 1/3 to the 2nd, which is 1/9. Negative 22 4/10 to the 0 power. Which one is it going to be?
-1. Negative.
Yes.
It's a positive 1. Why? Why is it a positive 1? The example that I just showed you before. Oh, I must have erased it. I said that this would be a negative 1. But why is that a positive 1? Because of the parentheses. Okay? So in this question, positive or negative? Positive 1 because it's in parentheses. There's nothing that's multiplying it times a negative 1. Next one. Simplifying with a variable. Take it term by term, or number or letter individually. Okay? Is anything being done with a 3? No, then leave it alone. Is anything being done with the A?
No.
Then leave it alone. That B is to a negative 2 power though. Is it happy being upstairs with the 3 and the A? No. So where are we going to put it?
Down.
It wants a bedroom in the basement. So move it to the basement and turn its exponent negative. Or turn the exponent to the opposite. Turn it positive. So it's 3A over a positive B squared. Okay? This next one might be easier read like this. 1/x to the negative 3 power. That's how it's written in yours, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that X happy living in the basement?
No.
No, it's not. Where does it want a bedroom at?
Upstairs.
It wants to move upstairs. So as soon as it gets moved to the basement, it's happy. Do I have to have the 1 being multiplied next to it? No, because it's the identity property of multiplication. So both of these are correct answers. 1 times x to the 3rd power or x to the 3rd power. Which way do you suppose you're probably going to see it on the answer key? Yeah, you're going to see it without the 1 because it's the identity property of multiplication. Okay, C, what are we going to do? Put it in the basement. So 1/3 to the 4th. Can I solve 3 to the 4th power? Then we need to simplify as far as we can. Back here, I don't know what x is, so I can't go any further with it. I don't know what b is, so I can't go any further with it. But when I'm given a number like 3 to the 4th power, I can solve that. What's 3 times 3? So don't I really have 9 times 9? Which is how much? 1/81, not 18. 1/81. That's my final answer. D, -4 to the -3 power. We have an unhappy exponent, so what are we going to do? Move it to the basement. So it's 1 over, keep your -4 inside parentheses. And it's being raised to the 3rd power. So now what we have is a -4 times a -4 times a -4. What kind of a fraction are we going to end up with? Positive or negative? It's going to be a negative. So we have 4 times 4, which is 16. And 16 times 4? 4 times 6? Carry a 2. 4 times 1? 4 plus 2 is 6. A -64. So a -164. When I write this one, it does not matter if I put my negative with the 64, or I could have written it out front of my fraction, or I could have given the negative sign to the 1. It doesn't matter. They're all mean a -1/64 as a fraction. E. -3 to the -2 power. Is this negative sign being affected?
No.
No, it is not. It is just the 3 to the -2 power that's going to the basement. So what's staying on top? -1, and now to the basement is going 3 squared. So what's 3 squared? 9. So my answer is going to be -1/9. The negative was not in parentheses, so it's not getting moved to the basement. It's not being squared. F, n to the -3, w to the 0. Is n to the -3 power happy where it's at?
No.
No, it is not. So that has to go to the basement. Is w to the 0 power happy?
Yes.
Yeah, it's all right. 0 is neither positive nor negative. Now, what did we just say anything to the 0 power is? 1. So Corbin, in this question, w to the 0 power is 1 over n to the 3rd power. I'm not going to leave w to the 0 power. Sorry, Rika. I did it twice now. Damn. So if something is to the 0 power, we're not leaving it to the 0 power. We're solving it and making it 1. Okay? How about here? N to the -1 over w to the 2nd power. Is n to the -1 happy where it's at? No, that's going to the basement. Is w to the 2nd power happy with the bedroom in the basement?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's going to stay put. So we're going to put 1 on top, n to the 1st, w to the 2nd. Do I need to put a little 1 next to n to the 1st? No, because anything to the 1st power is still that number. Just like 2 to the 1st power was still 2, I don't need to say n to the 1 power. Okay, this last one, we have 1 over m w to the -3. Do we have to do anything with m?
No.
Do we have to do anything with w to the -3?
Yeah.
Clearly does not like living in the basement. It wants to go upstairs. So what is 1 times w to the 3rd power? Is it still w to the 3rd power? 1 times w to the 3rd power, do I need to have that 1 sitting in front? No, I don't. So I can just say w to the 3rd power over m. Questions? Is it as hard as you thought it would be? Or whatever. Evaluate. For x squared, y to the -3. For x is 3, y is -2. Do nothing yet. Okay? My suggestion to you is get rid of your negative exponents first. So rewrite this as 4x squared times 1 over y to the 3rd. Rewrite it with positive exponents in there first. Doesn't this really mean 4 times x times y? Actually, it means 4 times x times y to the y to a -1, y to a -1, y to a -1. Okay? So now, when I rewrite this, I have 4. X is being replaced with a 3, and that is being squared. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm still multiplying. The y to the third is a -2. Replace the -2, or replace the y with -2, but put it inside parentheses and cube it. So it's 4 times 3 squared times 1 over a -2 to the third power. Do all of your exponents first. So I'm not going to do anything with 4 yet. What is 3 squared? 9. 1 over, and I can do a multiplication sign here too if that's, what is a -2 times a -2 times a -2?
-8.
-8. So it's 4 times 9 times a -1/8.
Four times 9. This is 4 here. Still have that 4 in front.
Multiply left to right. 4 times 9
36.
times a -1/8. How do you multiply fractions? Drew, calculator off. How do we multiply fractions? Straight across. Can you do any cross reducing with 36 and 8?
No.
8 times 4 is
32.
32. 8 times 5 is 40. So we can't divide them both by 8, but can you divide by something else?
Divide by 4.
You can divide both of them by 4. 36 divided by 4 is 9. 8 divided by 4 is -2. Multiply straight across. 9 times 1. 1 times -2. So 9 over -2. Change to a mixed number. Positive or negative answer?
Negative.
Okay. How many times does 2 go into 9? 4 times. So I'm doing 9 divided by 2. It goes in there 4 times. How much is left over? 1 over 2. So a -4.5. -4.5. We're going to leave that question and get your worksheets handed out.